Hi, it's Chastia. It is, November 23rd. November 23rd, 2024. It is 12:18 p.m. And I'm coming on basically in an attempt right now to communicate what is connected and clearing you can call it even the Dixie line. This is why the Confederate War was fought. It's connected into the simulation grids, all coming from the history of the forming of the simulation. And just like right now, as a human race, we're missing big groups of children. High pitch in my left ear. We're missing groups of children. In every situation, we're the children that we're missing. All of us that in the middle of this story that kept playing out in a simulated story written on archetypes connected to the saints of latter days and just the saints, period. And it's connected into the orphan trains, the Tartarian children, and the children that came into the United States that had abilities to build infrastructure that was attached to the rest of the world. The children were sent into the United States to hide within family lines to build what you'd consider the future. Just like what we're talking about with New Earth right now. Same thing. Same thing. So the children were sent into United States of America and then assigned different parents that were under different DNA counts. The children went into those family lines to clean the karma of those lines. Originally as a Tartarian orphan, then it would continue in the line and become an RH negative in the line in some sense, form, or the way. Then all of those family lines that the Tartarian is saying that they are built connections in the United States to the rest of what you'd consider the Roman Empire, the Tartarian Empire, the Ming dynasties, all of the infrastructure that the humans had ever built from those originating standpoints. However, the problem was we had to complete it and get it all over the United States. Why? It's where the divine feminine comes in on the planet. It's where the full connection comes through on this dragon that we were living on, because it's even the process in which the dragon was being made to eat its tail for us to exist on, because this had been going on so long. Now we can take that same Tartarian orphan train and stick Saint Joseph in it. Now, first of all, there's 7 on here right now. And I'm taking a poll. I want to know this, and this is crucial. This is crucial evidence to even solving this within the human race. How many of you have an affiliation to St. Joseph Hospital in some sense of the word? Were you adopted there? Were you were born there? Were your children born there? Did you have surgeries there? St. Joseph specifically. Do you have any lines that were in an insane asylum called St. Joseph? Because this is where this is getting trippy. Now, what's nuts about being the ones in this system is that, in a way, it's like we were under protection by faith, pure love, pure support from the people. No matter what the infrastructure was that was connecting it, the people, the true people, they were given their true love, their true support, their true faith into these saints. Okay? So whenever you're in the St. Joseph system, it's fucking tricky, because, I mean, in the end days, this is how we ended up in the mob. This is how we ended up with in groups of the mafia. This is how we ended up in groups of vampiric energy. This is how we ended up being able to survive with the wolves, survive with the vampires. This is how we were able to survive it in every sense of the form, because we were protected by the people, not the infrastructure. So for those of us that were lost in this St. Joseph system of saints, what really kept us connected was our true faith and support from the people, which in days we ended up being full stigmatas of in every sense of the form, because of how evil the system became. Now, I'm talking about this because of a few reasons. Number one, this is the hospital, and the funeral I went to, I didn't go to a funeral because it was a Catholic funeral. When I drove out of Dallas, I was going, it's like a ring right there. And I hadn't been out in a long time going towards Bryan. So Bryan, Texas, from where I am in Texas, it takes me an hour to even get out of Dallas. Okay? Dallas, Fort Worth is as big as some countries in Europe. And I'm not even kidding. When I drove out of Dallas, because that's where the hydrogen collider is. When I drove out of Dallas, to my right, like it was glued to my front bumper, was a bright green Evergreen truck. Now, this is Evergreen. When we're talking about the Evergreen, I'm not talking about what it became in days. And I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton. But who did the frazzle drip? I'm talking about the girl that got dripped. In the end days, it became a baby farming system because it was set up in a DNA simulation and it had got out of hand. Now, because it's in a Babylonian system. And then you have stories of history that this energy was connected into. In my world, it always starts with Mary Queen of Scots. And actually, it's like, I know, I mean, I haven't incarnated much. I don't physically incarnate. I can only, see, realize you can only physically incarnate on the planet when there's when there's a shift happening, account along, because when you come into the planet, galactic wars start. Because us just being in the lower densities and all of that coming out of our system in a lower densities connects all the galactic stuff because we have all the keys and this is the key. So realize that those of us that are in these lines, that's why we call ourselves processional beings. It's why we call ourselves sun children. It's how all of these telepathic connections and all that were connected that we have now and that we utilize and that we're being abused. But everything that we talk about that happened with this whole Joseph thing was in the Saints of Latter Days, which is not the Mormon faith. It's the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it was the remnant Mormon seeds that held the records of who had incarnated and who they were before in between those 12,000, 14,000, 10,000 year counts. So when I'm talking about Mary Magdalene, I'm talking about the version that South Africa, it's how South Africa got into Louisiana, and then how that became the sugar, and then how that became the oil. Then that's where the birch tree came from. And then down in New Orleans is where all the death was being stored, literally in tombs, which are holding cells, which look like what? Databases. See, this is anybody in California? What does Capitol Records building look like? Capitol Records building in downtown Los Angeles. What does it look like? This is a database developer. Now, anybody, hold on. Anybody remember this? Mayan astrology. You know how Mayan astrology is color coded. Whenever you pull up your Mayan astrology chart, it's gonna have different symbols. And FYI, in Cohu 32, you're getting all this from the star points. I'm just telling you from the other direction. This is where you have yellow, Yellow human, which basically becomes Libra. Oh, why'd I do 10? Y'all heard of Oracle? Who's heard of Oracle? Who's heard of Oracle? Oh, and see, this is why I hate deer. Oh, see, and this is why all the programmers, they call me deer. Oh man, if they come on and call you deer, DEAR, run, run, run. Okay, see, this one's a little different. They've updated it. I haven't looked at now. See these dots right here. Okay, this is what matches up to hieroglyphs and Sumerian time counts, and this matches up to Egypt. It matches you up to Egyptian timelines and reads and lines and reads, and certain lines are certain time counts, and then certain dots. Okay, that holds 4 connections. This holds 3. That holds 2. Okay, this mine astrology is a middle layer in between an Egyptian clock, because these lines match up into an your mind dots, and your mind thing will then give you the information to go line yourself up in an Egyptian time count. And I'm talking about when humans were made, when Christ came in. See, because that's the one I hold. These 3 dots. Now, whenever you do messaging of any sort and on YouTube, what are they? What is it? 3 dots, isn't it? It's 3 dots that scroll while you're waiting for your messages to come in, while even YouTube. And if you go back to the videos that I started on this channel, I always put 3 dots. That's because the divine feminine sign is 3 dots, the creator, the true creator. Mine has 2 lines. So my Egyptian sign is 2 lines underneath 3 dots. Well, that means that I'm from the group, okay, in the cosmic system that's involved with 0-point creation. How we got the horses here, how we got, when the Indians need them, how the horses actually got here, because they didn't just appear. That was a sacrifice in another dimension of one of us coming in to be a horse. It's how the turkey got here. That was an Indian princess. So see, me, and who I am in my totality, what I've been able and what I've brought into incarnate. That's why I had to, and this is the time of Yahshua. This is resurrection. Da 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 da. But it's all very specific timing in a wheel, where everything's being created at 0 point, because the cosmos is having to change because of the frequency of the human race. Lo and behold, it's a whole system in process. Now, our group makes something out of nothing. Our group comes in when the entire DNA blows up. I don't care what the perception is from the human race. We all know what the story is that's going on now, because we're in the age of technology now. But my point is to everybody, these cells that are being held underground in geopolitics grids are literally like sheep corrals. And let me see if I can light up. Stop. Mayan astrology is holding your connection from the cosmos down here, over here, over here, over here. We were in a simulation and it wasn't moving. Everything that had been ever buried in your ground ended up being just further down depending on how old it was. Every single death, sedation, then creates a ring and everything holds in it from above and below. And whenever those sequences get triggered in the ground is when the recreation comes back in. And that's what we would call reincarnation. The problem is Oracle database specifically, which I went toe to toe with in where? Tucson, Arizona. There's a reason. This company, Oracle, well, guess what? There's only two types really of databases that were running any type of C# or web development. You were either on a Microsoft SQL, they called it SQL. The sequel, part 1, part 2, and Oracle, which is built off Mayan astrology grids with a current running through it that's being projected into the grid system, which keeps people from leaving the grid. Hear what I'm telling you. Like this system with the technology hooked up in it is how people think they can't leave their town. It's how you, I mean, and when you do, I mean, you literally have to spiritually activate yourself to the point where you can get it together and jump in faith, and you might even blow an engine getting out. You might, but it'll always be made available for you to have a connection. But what you don't realize is that every single one of y'all blew a tire, blew an engine on that same fucking highway trying to get out of that town with your full energy connected to all the death that you've connected because you had mind connections. It's what geopolitics is. It's what GIS politics is. It's what the G was in the middle of masonry. I mean, this G's around me everywhere. I'm a golfer, a Ginzel. I mean, literally, I have G's hanging all on the walls around me. Growing up, I was always staring at a G. So what we're even proving is that basically this would be Francis and this would be Joseph. And what I'm even seeing, because see, St. Joseph, the Sisters of St. Joseph, they're the third order of the Sisters of St. Francis, which is the sister that started the entire St. Joseph Hospital network in the South, which is a ton of different hospitals, not insane asylums, not sanitariums, hospitals in the South, was Gretchen Kuntz. She ran the whole thing, and she was Sylvania Franciscans, which was the order that was also connected to St. Joseph insane asylums in northern states. So at the same time that St. Joseph is in Texas running hospital networks through a sisterhood in the Catholic Church there is St. Joseph insane asylums being run in parallel in the north. And this sister, Al had to go after number one. I found out that I wasn't adopted at St. Joseph's. Dr. Marsh took me to his house, and my parents came and picked me up at his house. What the fuck? His name was Dr. Marsh. We're still trying to hunt that dude down. Sister Patricia was the one in Bryan College Station that called my parents. But Patrick and Patricia would have to arrive in order to make sure that that if something bad was going to happen. So that makes sense to me. But Sister Gretchen Kuntz is the one who was the president of it all. And she had Al there in the 70s in Ohio for a meeting in Michigan. Well, 2021, whenever I left here to get to Natalie in Michigan, I had to stop in Ohio and I had to spend 2 nights with Matthew before I went into Michigan. Same thing Al did. Same thing. Not only that, he didn't fly home in the 70s. They all drove home. So he drove from Michigan to Texas with 3 nuns in the car. What? Do you know anything about energy channeling? I do. They had Al in a car with 3 nuns in the 70s connecting the insane asylum when he just adopted a baby. Now realize, we're still talking about the orphan trains. Now what we're talking about when we start bringing in the insane asylums, now we're bringing in the monarchs of London and Europe. And the entire Hess family line that was formed from the Rothschilds, you want to call it the Rothschilds, but it really wasn't even that. It was the making of a king and queen in London with this reptilian whatever the fuck. And them always having... They always had the Christ seeds. They always had us in our line, in the line. See, and that's when Joseph Smith entered, and that's when the Smiths enter. See, because the system had already been forming this Joseph. We were always inside Joseph, but see, in the real story of Joshua and Sarah Damaris, father's name isn't Joseph. It's Yusuf. In the scroll of the family line, father's name is Yusuf. Found in people with the surname Yusuf is Coptic Egyptian, which compromises 35.2% of all ancestry found in people with the surname. The next 2 most common ancestries are Egyptian, 20.3 and Levantine. Yusuf. Now there's a reason Yusuf, because it's you. It's all Babylonian code. It's all masonry. Literally us saying it over and over and over created Joseph Smith, because we kept saying that Mary had a baby. Well, I mean, and see, this is even describing how the hell Mary got pregnant in the middle. Like, what I'm realizing is that whole Yahshua Jesus Christ story, like, that for us, that's the brother that we lost. Like on for all of us light workers and all of us that came in the beginning together that ended up taking on this energy to solve this problem. It wasn't we knew that we were the lost girls. We knew that we had found us. It was that it had already been that our sons and were lost, and our twin was lost, or a little boy. We were always tracking a little boy. We were always trying to find the boy. Then when we found the boy, we had to get the demons out of the boy because of how they were doing it, because that's what they were doing. This Hess line ended up being like their DNA trash can. And it also ended up being, we were the ones in the family that got activated, just like it happened this time. And then everybody, when it was happening, everybody thought that we were going crazy. Is why this is why it, we're going through a procession and we're hooked into the entire human race because of what and how we were connected and bred down here. We're not crazy. We got all your brain cells. You're gonna go. So the Hesses ended up forming family lines and generations. Well, but Hess is Hess oil. Hess is Exxon. Hess became Esso. Esso became Exxon. Exxon ended up running the entire sedation of the matrix from the equator all the way down to Antarctica. Mobile is the Greek spell that runs the top. Literally. Mobile had SAP already in play. Mobile and SAP is the human harvesting machine. Now we know. Exxon was all mainframe COBOL programming of the human race cooked in it that allowed for a pole to hold a mobile. Literally. And when we're talking about Joseph and Mary, and realize too, this Franciscan, this is all going back. Whenever you're dealing with Francis, you're dealing with who did Mary Queen of Scots married Francis. She grew up in France. It was Francis was her husband. Then she went back to Scotland, but the reason Mary Queen of Scots is so important is because it held three lines, our Irish, Scottish, and England, with a son. So it's just this is what's all and it's connected to the Alamo and why Spain and Mexico were fighting over Texas to begin with. It's absolutely nuts. Because you got to remember, if you're, and this is why a lot of you have mothers that were adopted, what breaks my heart is hearing all y'all's stories about how so many of you had mothers that were murdered, so many of you had mothers that died in car accidents, so many of you even had mothers that killed their spouse right in front of you. From this line. This is why. Like, I think that's really setting in right now. I can feel it. I feel somebody just really got that. We were lost inside time. We were lost inside every single one of everybody. We are the children that are all showing up in these pockets of space right now. Realize that they're appearing because we're figuring out that we were the ones who were lost. In the Bible, where it says, you get through an eye of the needle, it's easier to get through a camel through the eye of the needle than for a rich man. Well, this is why. You can't get up to the higher, you can't get up to the higher dimensions. You can't take it with you. You have to go back and see how it was coiled in. From a root perspective, you can think of this as like a big leg. This is a big leg, and the whole United States is like the skin peeled off a tree. Like this is the tree, but this is the branch, this is the trunk, and like this is the bark laid out flat from that tree. Pirate Eagle, you have a problem with my hand? All secrets coming out. There ain't nothing y'all can do. Yes, black oil is human energy. They oil is made from a bunch of activated star seeds in lower sedations burning off carbon creates oil. It's why the Russian princesses were killed, and then the way that they were killed, and then they were de-skinned with shells, and their energy then went into the ground. They knew it. They did a spell on it to create oil. What we've also, if you were in a royal line in Russia, you ended up incarnating in Texas. It was set up that way. Black goo is oil and space. They were trying to program black goo because space is maternal, and it would be like really truly the way they had this spread out over space time, and what this, because it's antimatter. Everything just got stretched. It's just antimatter. It was. And whenever the Christ comes in, then the anti is around you. Well, that's why, literally. Like, in a lot of ways, we were, and that's what star seeds became. In a lot of ways, it's like the antimatter and the space is what protected us. But then there's going to be a moment in time where that all matches back up. And they knew that process from a birthing cycle that the human race had forgot, and that's what they were managing. That's why they kept getting more and more unhuman the more that they manipulated the birthing process. Because it's universal law. So that is why they were doing, and they were bringing back in the Sumerian gods. Well, good. That's what needed to happen, because basically what they did is brought back in their own prisoner. They're the ones who locked them up to begin with, so we could lock them up again. They fell for it, but that is, I mean, to the extent of what all had to play out down here. It's like a leg. Right here. See, and this is why even the Panama Canal. This is why everything went down right there, because you gotta remember that everything's mirroring each other. My point is, all the guts and the wiring and the plumbing, that the root system of the matrix was all on DNA lines. That, I mean, because see, here's the this is the jump that we went through in this lifetime from here to here. And this would be considered the Gough Peninsula, Gough, and Ough is a special sequence. That's why McConaughey is one of them, but see, from the other side. But he was even Jason in the movies. He was Friday the 13th. He was Jason, Matthew McConaughey. See what I'm screaming? Like this I'm talking about the same thing and how the energy played out in our lifetime. It's freaking nuts. It's freaking nuts. Because I mean, as a collective, what no, my thing's frozen. As a collective, we claim Saint Sarah. The Black Madonna, the Kali, da 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 da. You know, from our line perspective, it's like, I mean, there was the first family of us back in, what was it, the 1700s, 18, somewhere around there. Is like all of us were queens of whatever. Because we were all married to kings, but we were in the line. We were supposed, like, but to us, it's just like getting together for whatever. But one of us was the Empress of Middle East. That's the big thing. That's what even I've had to like reclaim again just in the past couple of days to get this fucking book. Because realize Saint Sarah, whenever we proved it, every single postal code in India was in the treasure trove. It was a process in the matrix with coding and being able to do certain things that we all walked as a unit, because we had to get out of this little, it's like literally the spell was on the room. Now I've never seen this room. This room's a little bit different than the one that I know that I broke out of. But see, this is what they do. See, they change. See these pictures? Oh, see, and this is even back to that whole Kundalini thing. And then come in with the Kundalini yoga, because it activated the divine feminine in the planet. It did. But then they were trying to control it with technology. But realize this is 5 spheres. If you're this energy, and she never has any legs. And see, then there's one picture over here. And again, this is a mimic mock-up. I've never seen this one. This is a mimic mock-up of the original one. I don't know who that is. But realize that the reason they do this and then they contain it is like putting it in a tomb. But they want you to project this, 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 and this. Like it was a puzzle to put it together and get out of it. But all of us that were in the hidden lines were working together to do it. This is all about putting the 5 spheres back together. It was completing. I mean, y'all, I'm tripping out right now. Like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? I have all the original pictures when I broke out of it. But what the fuck? See, here's another version. This is why we had to change the bloodline. We had to change the blood because this is the type shit they were doing and getting away with it because nobody knew. Look, there's a blonde girl. See, they changed the pictures in this house. They're trying to use her to project these, but every time they were doing this, it was affecting all of us. Trip out right now. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. See, this is how they've been changing the matrix. Like, Wow. They just changed the internet. See, but that was all based on India stuff. Hold on. I can't even find my search thing right now. I'm so irritated. It was 2023. Give me just a minute. We broke out of it last year. I was just going to see. Now, and for whatever reason, I'm putting all these codes in here and see how I'm see FYI, this is what your trade floors look like. Exactly. See, and even the voodoo dolls. Because we basically had to undo a voodoo doll stuff off of us. I'll have to do another video to show it. I don't know where it's at. I mean, but just so when we got to cook stage, this is what type stuff I was over here having to do. Because I was in the cook line through a Heisler. I had basically in the like I in this line that came from Czechoslovakia, Heisler, that came from Czechoslovakia. They're the ones who moved into Texas and basically got the divine feminine out of Czechoslovakia. Okay. But somehow this line was the one trapped in the government system that ended up being the most wealthiest families in Europe, cook, attached to the Heisler line, that they had buried these guys. And literally while they were cooking the collective, I was uncooking the collective, and that's why Martha's Vineyards, Obama's cook, died. And he had this weird little box with these old glasses in it, and a cigar box, and there was this whole thing with the cigar box, and it had everything to do with this line and even their birth certificates and stuff, and they all have the Masonic templates on it for the United States, because it's like from, I mean, that's the name that Chastia is my original name when I came into the United States as a sacrifice in a Mason family line from Germany over there. And that's why they even have a company called Chastia Information Technology. At some point in history, they sacrificed a daughter in their line, and we came into the United States, and then they built it there. But the problem was nobody ever came back and claimed us in the United States. So then it just gave all those people more power. And then when we have children, now they've got an extension. The hat's on the monkey, like, and the hula hoop is a portal. Like, it got crazy. It got crazy last year. But I'm having to even show y'all that we've been in the process of even, and all these things that I was doing with these different things were mimicking what was going on in the cosmos at different times. I'm just fully aware in the cosmos of when it happened, because I'm doing it down here at the same time, at the same minute that it's happening in the cosmos. Joseph and that line doesn't have, okay, see now, oh, interesting. Okay, now I'm over here at Hall Office Park. Now this is in Frisco, the fastest growing city in the United. This was where my office was. This is behind there. They have all this stuff set up and they're doing black magic. I mean, this is Hall Office Park connected into the Cowboy Stadium, the Ford Stadium, and that's the other thing that's interesting. In Detroit, now St. Joseph Hospital is Henry Ford Hospital. See, this is where they're building everything. This is like just off over in this little creek. There's chicken wire all up because and then, oh man, like, don't even get me started. Because basically when you're coming energetically, you're coming out of certain gates. See, and look at this. It's like a nuclear plant system. It's like in the ethers when you're coming through to make this connection right here in Texas. I mean, look, they even have a fucking map set. Look at this. Look at that beam of light. This is right, and all this is over here. I mean, mind you, this is called the G1, G2, da da da. It's called Hall Office Park. They've got all this art over there, okay? But it's halls. It was the stolen halls of Amente. It's set up in Texas. So I don't care if you come to Texas or not. Whenever you're completing your lower half of your body, coming up out of Texas, their black magic was basically making it a haunted house. And look, this is their emblem. Look. See how the jaw's offline? It used to be prosperity, and that's what they were coming for, the prosperity bank vaults. They couldn't get it. In another dimension, your banks were basically blood banks. If you've got a deep connection within your family line to a certain bank because you're from a small town, especially in the South, oh shit, they's all over you like flies on shit. But then they just made it Lamar. But we are talking about one big KKK spell on a Kim Kardashian. But look at this shit. This is where the energy's coming through. They're calling it art. But hear what I'm this is like a telecom connection in the planet that's merging your etheric body and your and then they put all this stuff up there. They call it art, but that's not the intention. The intention is when they look at that. When the energy comes down, it traps and distorts because you're coming down on it like a big, massive energy. And all this is set up to fuck it up. You know? So I'm showing y'all like how it's connected into your real life. And how these different, this is Cook Children's Hospital. Is what it's called. Cook Children. Cook Children. It's down the street from me. This is look what. It's literally called Cook Children. They put it in first, then started building all the hospitals. Now then PGA came in. This is a football field called Car Rico. Car Carico. That's on the corner at Union and Nova. So we're Union at the crossroads. Crossroads is only 5 miles that way. This is like Little Elm, Freddy, Nightmareville, Car Rico. It's literally like your soul is sent here into Texas. And gridded into a system in the crossroads if you've been doing bad. I mean, according to them. But realize that according to them, anybody who comes to help the human race deserves to be punished. Literally. This was at the AC when I was I was not planning. Now, I'm putting this out there for the whole entire world to see. This is how they were stealing energy from the 6th to 8th dimension in Frisco, Texas. And this is where the pockets were. And this is how the Masons did it. All this came in as I was unwinding it, sitting on top of the grid system in Ford, on the other side of Ford Stadium in Frisco, where Jerry Jones built his colossal cement park, basically on top of us. I had to embody the whole thing to get out of there. But in this hotel room, I was able to get my galactic light to work better than ever with the USB cord in my Coca-Cola, not plugged into a wall, because it's pure. It's pure energy, and it came in this room after I did that. But I had to bring myself in stick figures and collect these all over the fucking hotel, as people had been putting them up like a little fucking scavenger hunt in order to come through that portal again and be able to be in the room and exist. This was happening at the AC Hotel in August, right before the Lionsgate, and this was when all the kids in New York City were doing their scavenger hunts, and all of them had that massive scavenger hunt. That's what we had them doing while we were doing this. There it is. This is also Scott and White Hospital. Man, the picture's like even distorting. Scott and White Hospital was based out of Temple. Oh man, y'all see that? It keeps doing shit. I'm shaking. See, and there was a doll that they placed around me because they were trying to do voodoo on us, and I had to like carry the doll's arm and leg around that doll's head and arm and everything. I had to put it back together with love. We basically resurrected ourselves. But then once we did, it created other issues. We ended up proving Saint Sarah right before we had to go to New Orleans, to the Saint Helene, which is in New Orleans, which is attached to the Saint Helene and that whole underworld freaking system that was attached to rebirthing of cosmic energies during cosmic counts. But now it was man-made with Helene on the Rothschild side, mirroring a Christ line. That's how Helene Rothschild and the name Helene ended up becoming the French connection, literally. The French connection into every single slave family line that ever was brought through New Orleans and sold off by the Catholic Church. Since it had been going on. Because New Orleans was like a big processing center. But it's why the saints, because now we know it's literally Egypt. And right here at the corner, at these four corners at the French corner, this is where I had to just start singing, and New Orleans tuned to us. It did. The whole town was working with us spiritually. But we had gone and cleaned the catacombs, and in the process of going raw, when I was in Anaheim, I had to resurrect all the harvest girls. So every single line that had ever done any type of ritual to give their daughter to the earth or to Gaia or to whatever in death, we resurrected. That's how we lived. That's how we completed it. Our lines really had buried, if you will, kind of like bodies that per the current bibliography, you wouldn't know who we are or how we got here, but we, in a way, had bodies in dimensions that we could jump in to carry us through, is literally how it was happening. Whether or not it was naturally created through time and process, or if it was activated and re-engineered in order to create it. And then those two had to meet up. On my way home, this was the grid system in Louisiana that I had to pull our etheric body out of, and it was associated to natural gas. And you can think of this being plugged into a body like this. Just turn it on its side. But this was a natural gas lines, and how all the lines are connected inside the G core. I mean, that we came out of all of it. We came out of all of it. This is when we were going, we need to speak to your manager. Like, realize that all I was doing was getting free. All I cared about was getting free. Once I got back, then this is what I had to put on my hand. But this glove had threads and things wrapped around my fingers. It was on my left hand, and it was involved in the arteries and connections in your heart and in your brain that you didn't have because of how it was all done. So I had to, then it took like by November, my veins changed in my hand. But this was a part of the rebirthing process, and even why Michael Jackson had that glove on. This is what they were mimicking, because your veins, my veins, are made to change to hold everybody in a church. I just always had to get the sequences back that were here, connected to everybody that was that was on those in betweens. Of the death process. So that got off on some weird thing. I wasn't planning on going there. We were talking about Sarah, and I was trying to find, and I have them, and I'll show them how we got out of the puzzle, because Saint Sarah was always made to put all the saints back together. Once we put all the saints back together, then that's when we had to start undoing the werewolf curses, because the Knights Templar were werewolves. The werewolves were supposed to be fending off dark magic. But the werewolves ended up becoming the dark magic in the end days. And if the Holy Grail had to fix their DNA that were turning them into werewolves and connect that all back together in order to get free. Which in turn is how we broke all the curses and broke the wheel. So I know this is all coming out right now for many different reasons. Number one, we're all getting to the truth of it, how we ended up where we are. Why did we pop into this dimension? Why were we here in 1972? How do we, I mean, because what I've been seeing, I mean, St. Joseph's been a spell we've been having to undo since 2021. Joseph's the one that, was messing with me and calling himself Jason Momoa, and Joseph and Jason, and all of that ended up becoming one massive MJ-12 on a Catholic battery system that they were just doing whatever the fuck they wanted with. And the fact that the feminine never was introduced, the sister was never introduced, the wife was always kept hidden. You were a djinn in a bottle. You weren't ever meant to be seen. You were always meant to come here and die, and for everyone to live off of what you had created, and for it to be handed out like scripts across the world. No. Obviously, that plan didn't work very well, and we're not going to do it again. How about you just have to talk to us now? And how about you have to fess up to how the fuck you've been doing this now? Because it's the only way you're going to be able to fucking get yourself out of the mess you got in. But if you haven't noticed, you set yourself up to get in trouble so that you wouldn't lose your soul again. Because I can promise you, Osiris, we ain't ever putting you back together again. And neither will Osiris have to fucking live off Isis anymore. But neither were they since Io came in. What's your Apple running on? An iOS. What's Jupiter's moon system? What's one of the moons? Io. Io is the command center of Jupiter's moons. Okay. What's iOS? Okay. Now we know. Okay. And there's IOAI. Okay. That's what it is. It's an ignition flow system. But we did birth a new IO sequence. in 2022 in November 17th. So that's even why we have AI at the rate that it's at right now, because of what we did in 2022. But the process ain't done finishing yet. When we look at a tropical system on Western astrology, that gives us a flat perspective from an ecliptic on equal housing, and because you got to remember that the stars are drawn out on a dome. Well, okay, do you want to look this direction, or are you looking this direction? Because when you look this direction, you can't see how low these go. Okay, if we're gonna look from the side, all right. Are y'all following me? Like these houses are star systems. They're not flat. The only way you can draw them on 2D is to show them connected, but they're not in a line. It's not like you just go and jump and jump and jump and jump. No, they're in different densities of space-time, holding different energetic connections up and down. When we draw it 2D, it becomes flat. So from a Western tropical, Venus has been in Vega, which is maroon and white. That's where I was back in Aggie Land. I mean, it all happened. That's why I ended up there. But this is the 22 star races, and this is the mechanical pieces of it, you know. Like if Elon Musk is in my character development, Akashic libraries, or any lifetime associated to me, then I command that he's disconnected from all artificial and mechanical systems of energetics. And I command that now he see that he created it. And I command that he come find us to fix it. See, and this is on Giza. We had that lineup. We had Sun on Ophiuchus 2. So this is the Laws of Ma'at. So this is why we're even on here talking about this, and why this is all coming up right now, because as the sun's going into Sagittarius, which is controlling what? Gemini. But like Sagittarius has to be completely put together before that sequence can even come down to split or to hit, because it's going to hit deep, and then it splits. So even if you're the energy of the Hyades, as you come in Gemini, then it's like you're a lightning. You just came out of the star system. Boom, you're a star in deep space. That's the Hyades. Then you get up a little bit. Then you get to Aldebaran. That's why it feels like you're on top of the mountain. But from a human perspective, you just got up to the top of the mountain. Then it goes woo, because right here at 12 to 16 in this is where Rigel and the raw consciousness is, and this is where the burial and the deep stuff is, and it's connected all the way to this, which is your Ophiuchus connections, which are right here and right here on the chart. But remember, they go way out here. And that's what ends up, then you go into Bellatrix, which Jupiter is coming out of Bellatrix now, because Jupiter's going to go all the way back to Aldebaran before it goes direct. It's going to, but right now we're leaving Bellatrix, and but Jupiter will go into that little dippy dip. Well, Mercury's already said it in Giza Plateau. In the Giza Plateau, with the stars lined up over the Giza Plateau in perfect fucking sequence. As the sun's coming into Sagittarius, that's Ophiuchus 1, Mercury's in, or Ophiuchus 2, Mercury's in Ophiuchus 1. This is the cosmic lineup. This is all monoliths and pyramid systems that are down here. As the sun is lining up the energy to it, connected into the human body codes that are down here, which is going to instantly, by the time this is done getting over this, it's going to change all of Gemini. It's like we're changing Gemini right now. Because the sequences that go into Gemini are going to be based off of this new sun. But this new sun is just now being lined up in the and we just went through this same dip that's right here is right here in Vega, right in the middle. They dip down like that because Venus is programming this dip right now. And that dip was formed from us missing in the matrix. All of us missing children that were being utilized in all these different family lines, always working into one sequence, being put into other families, making us connect and clear them. Then for them all to attempt to kill us, lock us up, take our children, say that we're insane, and then go back to your merry lives? Because it's just what was happening down here? And everybody's surprised that that system broke? We dealt with Francis. We dealt with Francis in the physical. Francis in the physical was a woman living out in the middle of Texas nowhere on this little RV with a bathtub full of scorpions. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Francis, when I met her face to face, Francis said, yeah, I hear what you're talking about in those videos. I had my angels or what God show up and tell me all that bullshit about 10 years ago, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I told them to get lost. So the keys to creation came to the correct body holder, no spirit. It ended up creating bodies. This is why you have body consciousness. This is why when you fully develop this, you really do have body consciousness. Like if you're not supposed to be where you're at and it is going to fuck you up, you will get picked up and moved. It'll trip you the fuck out on how it happens, but you won't be allowed to go the wrong direction if it's going to affect too many people. We call those tower moments. Now the human brain is catching up to the rest of your body, but realize your body was made to be controlled. This is why those of us who are in the line, we know the plan is that we don't know the plan. It's what kept us alive. That's why we have to let it all form around us the way that each of us read it to know when to make a move and when to connect, because you're doing it from that hidden line that's all been put back together now. And now we're literally like an architecture getting pulled up, like literally right now it's happening. The all those infrastructures that are connected in the tech, connected into the oracle, connected into the mind, connected into the Indian, connected into the cemeteries, connected into the burial, connected into that has already been morphed and merged back together and already put back together into a cosmic force. That's what energy made your new blood. And right now what's happening is all, you know why all that exists? So that whenever we form one big etheric body, that whole thing just like a little piece of string pulls it up. It's like the whole thing's flat and then it just pulls it up, and then underneath it is boom 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 all the way down. Except this time there's a back door in every situation. It's already been walked before a gazillion times. Each layer, you're just tuning in to the subliminal stuff around you as you're getting taught and pulled up to connect into the higher layers. But this was orchestrated by you and your ancestors and your DNA, and why and how you tuned your chart, and how and what planets needed to be in a certain sequence for you to get back in here. The babies that are being born today haven't been able to ever get here because they needed this chart. If we wouldn't have come in and reset the cosmos, this day wouldn't have come. And the other reason that we just went on a rabbit hole deep dive is because the moon was going through Thuban. And this isn't the Alpha Drac. This is a royal house. And what did I start talking about when we showed up here? We were talking about the nuns and the sisterhood. Okay, well, we command all the power of the sisterhood and all the faith to dominate every single secret and lie that has ever been told throughout history. And as the maternal matriarchs we are, with the power that is infused in us, in every single covenant, bind, and prayer that has ever been spoken across space-time, to include any of our family members in its phonetics, we command the power to the people, and we command now that why we were here is what we're doing right now, W, and we're turning the lights all on. Because in a lot of ways, this cavity is so deep in space. In a lot of ways, even the bridge and the rainbow bridge, and what we know as a bridge of and what we talk about, that you go through a wormhole or a quantum jump or whatever, in a lot of ways, because we just blew out the bottom to this mofo. We blew out the bottom last year. And then it circled all the way back around. See, this is why everything's expanding. This is why we put 5 spheres together. Like, this is that little bridge with all of us in that Alpha Drac line over the history is basically kind of like what you're coming out of when you it's what's popping you out. It's getting closer and closer and closer because that bridge coming, and then you're seeing it, and whenever those match up, it really is like a seam. But then even Cohu 32 and what I know, like for the next from 2025 to 2027, it's just a different set of physics down here. After 2027, we're going to have another fucking massive because it'll blow again, because we're all uncoiling our root chakras from it at the same time that it's meeting. All right. So I'm in a row. It's been a little over an hour. I just needed to come on and talk about that. And Vanya and Vanya and the phonetic of Von or Van, just all connector, day, bay, Von, whatever the F balls. Everybody's got one name and it's their secret name. I command all names disconnect. Now, I'll ask my listeners, I'll ask all of y'all what's happening over here behind the scenes with the brand and everything, and with what we're doing and how we're expanding, is we're gonna open up other ways for y'all to communicate that are powerful beings, right? Because we know that we're writing the future, we know that we're changing things, and also um, connecting just these little bitty in between pieces with a group of y'all that are also, and then some of y'all will want me to start training in the Kohu 32, so that you guys can start doing some of these readings and stuff like that as we expand, and or use it in your modality, use it in whatever, as the connector in whatever your specialty is, because it'll upgrade whatever specialty you currently have, because it's showing you it'll show you the expansiveness of your creation, FYI. So if you have an idea on that, just think about it. Like if you were in a perfect world with all of this right now, and there was a group that came together, and what application, like what would it be on? Would it be on Telegram? I don't know. Do you know something else? But just think about it, because we're looking for that information right now. So all of y'all thinking about how y'all want to come together and interact, and what would be best for you, and just you thinking about it for a minute is gonna give us a plan in order to make that happen, is the best way for all of y'all right now that are putting in your vote. So I want to do this with y'all. So if y'all can start thinking about that, and the different pieces, that it's like with Kohu 32, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't understand, I always get lost right here, just even in your head, Chestia, I always get stuck right here. Like, put in your vote, talk to me in your head, because that's what stage we're at right now. And remember that whenever it's happening in the physical with me or anybody in a group of spirit, like that's coming together, I want everybody just to realize that it's also happening in other dimensions. Okay, so give me your vote, send me your message, because we're organizing it. All right, we got this, we're doing it together, and I'll be back.